Hi everyone, I'm Robert Galstian, and I'd like to welcome you to our Artists in Conversation series, the Open House Edition. Today I'm especially happy to introduce you to Catalina Guirado and Todd Williamson, where we will visit them in their homes to learn more about their practice, their collections, and how they live with art. Before we start, I want to make this discussion as interactive as possible, so please feel free to submit any questions you have by using the Q&A function on your console. Catalina Guirado is a former model, cover girl, and TV personality who hosted some of the UK's most popular and award-winning TV shows. She moved to LA in 2004, where she became a media entrepreneur and also launched her own boutique firm focused on the arts, design, and events. She has taken over the active management of her late father's estate, Juan Antonio Guirado, and has sought out to maintain his legacy amongst the leading Spanish modernists. She not only documented his extensive catalog, but also worked on museum exhibitions of his paintings in Europe and the US. Todd Williamson was awarded the prestigious Pollock Prize for Creativity by the Pollock Foundation. This was just the third time they awarded this prize. The $50,000 award was directed towards his fantastic exhibition, Processional, a solo installation at last year's Venice Biennale. This was presented in partnership with the Max Center for Art and Architecture here in West Hollywood. Todd has also exhibited extensively and is currently in a solo museum exhibition in Germany and a group exhibition here in the US. He will be opening another solo show in Germany in a few months. So thank you, Catalina and Todd, for joining us today. This is such a treat to see both of you in your homes. I'm looking forward to seeing more of your collections.
Hi.
It'll be a fun talk.
Fabulous. So let me just see what's going on here. I just got me, so that's okay. So welcome to my sitting room, which is the Guirado room. I kind of turned it into the Guirado Estate room. I do collect other artists, but they are around the rest of the apartment. So shall I start, Todd?
I think you should.
Okay. Right, let me flip the camera around. So let's start with this painting. So this is a piece, it's actually a really large piece. And it's an acrylic on canvas, and it's by Juan Antonio Guirado, and it was a series of paintings he called the Kaleidoscope collection that he started in the 90s. This piece is actually pinned 99. And if I go in tight, you can see it's actually very three-dimensional. You would never realize that this is literally acrylic on canvas. It's a big, thick canvas.
Did he paint this in when he was in Spain, Catalina,
yeah.
Or was this a Miami piece?
No.
Spain?
Yeah, this is in Spain when he was living in a town called Mojácar in Almeria. And I love this collection. And this is one because I was estranged from him for many years. So I saw this collection. He's got this, there was about 10 of these. Some are even bigger. I actually brought this back on the plane and I had to put it in the extra large baggage, and they lost it at LAX. So I was having complete, yeah, so I had a fit for about 2 hours trying to find this and another painting that you'll see later. So that's the last time I bring oversized paintings to the country.
Is the city where he painted this the city where they're trying to establish the museum for him?
No, well, they did their own version in Mojácar. It's just a very small provincial version in honor of him. But actually, we're from the city of Jaén, and it's a province in Andolithian. And I've been started to talk to the mayor and the head of culture for the region about creating a international arts foundation. And they were going to give me a building where we'll have Guirado works. But also what I want to start doing is bringing over international artists such as yourself that could come over.
Amazing idea.
Yeah, exactly. And then and it's very central in Andalusia. And I think it'd be really fantastic because it's a really artistic region. And it's got a beautiful castle. And I just think it would just be really important. And we'll also have residency as well. So we'll have artists in residence come over. So this was something I actually was starting this year, and then of course COVID happened, and we're all on hold now. So yeah, this is the next project. So I've got to start fundraising for it. So
well,
yeah.
and these types of foundations are going to be even more important going forward. You know, like dealing where you have a foundation like this that helps artists to not only exhibit their work, but to be seen in other countries and other states. It's so important.
Exactly. I'm also working with a virtual reality company about working out some software that we can. So it's, as you say, it's going to be much more accessible for the world. And opening up the art market and making artists from all over the world really accessible. And I think that's something else to think about when working on a foundation nowadays.
Well, I know for me, working with the Pollock Krasner Foundation was a lifesaver, and they were the most amazing people to work with. I can't even begin to say how much I loved meeting them, because they all came, the board of directors came to my opening in Venice, and them being there was such an amazing thing for me. You know, it meant more than almost anything that happened was to have them at my opening.
Now, didn't you tell me that only like 3 people had won this, and you're one of them?
Yep. The first one was Gideon Mendel. The second one was Amy Sherrill, who painted Michelle Obama. And then I am the third one. They don't do it every year. They kind of do it within the organization, and it happens on where it's what do you call it? It's someone presents the artist, and that you can apply for it. It's something done within the organization. Wow,
that's amazing. Yeah, I totally understand that. That's really interesting. Yeah, my dad. You also in the Venice Biennale you were there last year, weren't you? So that was in association with that. Yeah, because my dad in '76 there was a sideshow called the Grollo Award, and he won the gold medal for that in 1976. But
that's amazing.
I think the Biennale kind of took over, so they stopped the Grollo Award. But yeah, it was quite good. It was a big deal for Spain at that time, because he was like one of 5 Spanish artists, and he beat the Italians. So you know the Mediterranean, they're quite
very competitive.
The Italian versus the Spanish. It's like football all over again, but with art.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've been very interested in learning who your dad was. He was such an important artist, and I had never heard the term that they used to describe his art, interrealism?
Interrealism.
I've never heard that before. So I've kind of been trying to brush myself up on what that exactly was. You want to tell people?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for putting that on me. It's quite difficult. It's quite hard to explain. It takes a few bottles sometimes.
Well, and the piece that you just showed, I think, is a really good example of that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think of this as more abstract, to be fair. If you want to go into realist, I can show you the next one. But I'll show you that one. The other ones, the whole point of interrealism is it's a form of surrealism, but it's going further than that. Whereas surrealism kind of was very dreamy, and you saw the objects, the dreamlike objects. This is going beyond the dream. I call it the upside down, if you ever saw the TV series. So if you can imagine, there's more worlds out there that you can't see, extra dimensions. That is how I would describe interrealism. It's seeing with the third eye. It's seeing beyond what you recognize and going further. A lot of, Fellini, the Italian director, he was part of this movement, and I think it was created in the 60s, in like 1968, I think. So you've got to remember, this is a very experimental time with film, with music. The Rolling Stones had I think they did their Satanic Majesty at that point. There was Sgt. Pepper. So it was quite a, how should I say, experimental LSD time.
And you live with all of this work in your house, right? Do you use your house as a gallery type space?
Yeah, I do. Like yourself, I do. I have the larger birth pieces here. As I said, I confined it to the sitting room because I do like to have other art around as well. But I grew up with it, you know what I mean? So I just choose, luckily, having such a large collection. I mean, there's 500 pieces in the estate. I have 40 pieces here, which I bought over mainly for exhibitions and sale. So the ones in here are the ones that I keep personally. So this is like the private collection.
Oh, very nice.
But I see that's a very nice painting behind you. Would you like to show me one of yours?
Sure. Well, since we're kind of talking about the idea of living in the space, and I'll actually kind of show you. I moved into this space because I have these big, huge walls. So I bring all of my large works. I used to keep them in my studio and they would stack up. So when I was doing the Biennale, I had 8 works this size in my studio. And my studio is like a 20 by 20. So I had to stack them in front of each other, then roll them around and take them out in the yard to kind of see how they work together.
Yeah.
So when we moved in here, now I keep everything in my house, and this has become my gallery. It's a place for me to show the work the way it should be shown. And I have great light. And even though I have these huge windows, you can kind of see the way my works change with the light all day long. And it's very nice to live with them. You can see this one right now because there's no direct sunlight on it. So you can really see like these areas where they're lighter, like almost like a soft green, and then the movements within the piece. So I kind of love living with them and seeing how they change and move. And this is a large piece. This is a 7 foot by 5 foot.
Wow, that's huge. That's amazing. You see, you've got the wall space for this, which I love. And that's really LA. A lot of things, my father's painted, the one I just showed is one of the larger pieces. Usually they are like on paper. A lot of them are on paper and they're smaller. So I always get the comment, this would be so great if you could make it larger. And I love the fact you have these large works. I wouldn't have put them on my walls here, unfortunately. I need a bigger house.
Now, do you take your dad's works? Did your dad do prints when he was alive, or is the estate now taking some of the works and creating prints from them? How are you doing that?
Exactly. There's a couple of small prints that he did when he released his book, and those we found when we were clearing out his studio, and those ones I'm releasing, and then now we are doing larger prints. So this painting I'm pointing at right now, this is what I love this. This is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's very beautiful.
It's like you, the light reflects your paintings. This is why I always saw a similarity in not necessarily in subject matter, but just in the way that the art and the talent behind your painting. But this catches the light and changes with the light too. I mean, if you look at it, this is painted on photographic paper. Can you see the eye?
Wow.
Yeah, and it's so 3-dimensional. If I just turn the camera this way, does this not look like it's kind of like
layers? There's so many layers in there.
I know. So this is why we worked with a virtual reality company to create a installation for the exhibition at Miami Coral Gables Museum in Miami. Because the company wanted to find an artist who had so many dimensions. So can you imagine what happened with the virtual reality is you basically can go up close like this and float around the artwork.
Now, did your dad paint strictly with brushes, or are those lines in there, did he make them with a palette knife or with something else, or is it strictly with a brush?
This is with palette knife, and then further down here you can see brush. You can see where he
beautiful.
This is like the land. So kind of looks like a dolphin in the middle as well.
And your dad was a bullfighter, I read, for a short time.
He was, yes.
How cool is that?
Good outfits is what I like to think. I'm really anti-bullfighting as such. But if you're from Andolithian...
But I mean, the sexiest profession in the world, other than the inhumanity of killing the bulls.
They do look quite good. There's particularly hot young. This is what you did in Spain to be a rock star. And if you were from a poor family like my father was, in a small town, being a bullfighter was basically like being one of the Rolling Stones. So he trained, and then he found, thankfully, he felt so he couldn't kill the bull, which I'm very happy about. So he carried on painting instead and attended school, art school, and then obviously the rest is he left and moved to Australia because of Franco's ruling and dictatorship in Spain and censorship of the arts. So most of the artists moved to France or Morocco. But my dad and another artist from Andolithian moved to Australia to try it out over there. So yeah. So
that is something I think is very important that a lot of artists don't do because of the difficulties. And I'm talking about showing around the world, because I noticed your dad has shown in so many countries. I've shown in a great many countries, and the logistics are sometimes daunting. But I think that for a collector to know that an artist is doing that and has done that, that's how you attribute value to the works, because it shows a depth in the artist and in what they're doing that doesn't exist if you just do the easy thing and just show in California or just show in just Spain,
or just show, or just get pieces put into auction without having any real provenance. And I think this is something that's gone a bit wrong here. Is thank you. I totally agree with what you say. I think the actual behind the art and the substance is so much more important than the price tag that gets put on in the auction houses.
I do too.
And
I think COVID I think is going to make that happen too.
Yeah, I really hope so, because it stopped a lot of very fine artists from getting as far as they should be, and there's like a little cap on it. So I think that you're absolutely right. It's got to be more about subject matter and talent and the art and what they do, rather than just getting some piece in and getting some rich person to buy it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I think the resume is going to become important again. For a while, I don't really think the artist's resume was as important as it used to be. And I don't know how you attribute value to a painting without looking at a resume.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree. And that's why, I'm finding that, I don't know if it's a simplification of people at the moment, but with reality TV and stuff like that, it does seem to me that intelligent art is hopefully going to make a comeback now, because it seemed to be on a bit of a sleeper for a while.
Yeah, and I also think people they now want something that they can actually relate to, that they can feel an emotional thing to, and not just something that shocks them.
Yeah, exactly. And also,
we've been shocked enough.
We're in shock still afterwards.
Yes.
And also, I think like you're talking about the depth in your work, because it changes so much, and that's what's really beautiful. You can move your painting, and also I can do the same with my father's, around in different places, and you're going to get a different view and a different feel for the painting every time you move it, because the light's going to react differently. And I'm sure your paintings look different at night, with you've got proper lighting on it compared to daylight. And I think a lot of just, I love pop art and design art, and that's kind of what I do. But I think when it comes to collectible pieces, it's so beautiful to have something that's a reference point, and you can have dinner. Look at this. See this? I love this piece, this red work here. This is stunning.
And to go off what this is called Time After Time, and it was done just before the lockdown started. But to go off of what you just said, I rotate my art constantly. So even though this is a very large painting as well, it's on the wall with 2 nails. So I always replace this with the same size painting, and I just rotate them. This is something that I think is so important, because I do want everything to change. So
oh wow! Okay.
And that's how I put the art on the wall. Oops. And then they fall.
Please don't break that, because I might want it one day.
And I think that's important, because it makes it really easy See, I just leave the same 2 nails on the wall all the time, and then I rotate the paintings in and out. As I paint new stuff, or if I have clients that are coming and they don't want to see red pieces, they want to see something else, I can move the art around. The only thing that I keep the same in my house is I have this very large piece that's 12 feet wide, and it's 2 panels. This is from 2006. Wonderful. And this I keep here because it's the only place that I have that I can literally show this painting, because it's so large. It probably should go in some corporate collection somewhere where it can hang on a giant wall.
Yeah, it actually probably should do. Do you do prints? You do prints of your work, don't you? But they'll be smaller.
I do.
Right? Yeah.
Well, I don't have them framed, but this is the print that's actually in today's in the exhibition we're doing, and part of the auction for sale.
Right.
I did this piece with a very famous printmaker in Germany named Hans Peter Haas. And Hans is 80, I think he's 86 or 87 now. When we did this, he was 84.
Wow.
And he's just a brilliant printmaker. He's worked with everyone from Lichtenstein to, he's worked with Kandinsky, okay?
Wow.
Because he spent all these years, Max Ernst, just everybody. I loved working with this man. I was so impressed. He was such a master. So I hope, and here, sorry, they're just put down with books because I don't have them framed or anything. This is another one that we did.
Stunning.
I'm sorry, the sun is coming through like this, but you can see the color that he was able to generate.
Shadow. I think the shadows look really good over it. You could actually take a photograph. There's a new art there.
Wow.
Wow, that's beautiful. So yeah, I did the prints. I've done one print. Well, I tried to do a print. One of my favorite paintings is this one, and it's called Carly's Tunnel. And this is a print because the original's in London. But this is the piece that they did a virtual reality. It was part of the virtual reality. And if I just go in, I do prints on luster paper, very fine quality luster paper, because much of the art was on photographic paper. So I kind of feel that it's kind of still in keeping. This is actually on board and it's with paper mache. But if I just move around, you can see all the faces. So this is like this, boom, boom, boom. And then in the virtual reality, you can see it's Carly at the top here. Again, going back to skulls.
I love the skulls. The skulls have been so part of culture over the past 20 years.
Right.
It's very telling about society and where we are.
I know, it's interesting, isn't it? I know, I always love the skulls. So, and then this is the piece that I put into the exhibition, the anti-racism.
Beautiful.
And this
what is that painted on?
It's actually aluminium.
Okay.
But this is one of my kind of reproduction prints of the original work that doesn't have the rainbow. By the way, happy Pride International Day, everybody. This is quite a fitting piece, I thought, the rainbow.
That's perfect. It's beautiful. I work on aluminum too, but I do something different. So everything, like this piece, the big blue piece, all of the ones that I've shown you were all painted. The canvas is stretched over a large aluminum panel. And that's how I paint, because it allows me to work on a very hard, very smooth surface. So and then I ship so much to Europe. Like here, this is how I typically do the paintings as well. This is a piece I just did for one of two that I did for a commission in New York. And then this one was painted on the aluminum panel. Sorry, as you guys are watching me do this. But you can see how it was connected on the back of the panel. And then I keep everything rolled because I ship to Europe so much. It's so much cheaper and so much safer to ship things rolled. That's how my whole practice has come into working that way now.
That's really good. Would you do prints on? Because so you work on it, but I could see your work looking really stunning on aluminum if you do prints.
On aluminum?
Yeah.
Yes, I totally would. I started working on aluminum about 15 years ago, and the problem with the paintings that I do is that the aluminum is so heavy and it creates its own set of logistical problems. And like the last time I painted on one, I did a very large commission for a client in Hawaii. And the piece was just wonderful. We crated it up. It was.
Yeah. Oh, I think you froze. Are you there? Oh, you're
there
back.
We go. Anyway, when it was shipped over, the shipping company allowed it to sit on the docks. And while it was on the docks, the crate got so hot that the paint stuck to some of the strapping that was on the inside. So we had to ship it back, and I had to basically repaint the work. So that was kind of the last time I did that for anything other than staying in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Todd, excuse me, two questions have come in. So the first one's for Todd. The viewer asks, is it safe to keep the work rolled up that way? And if so, for how long?
I don't keep it rolled up. I store it in my studio unstretched.
I think you froze again, Todd.
I'm sorry, this is cutting in and out, I think. Is everything working there?
Yeah.
I can hear you, but I don't see you.
Just keep talking. You're on the radio.
I don't know what's happening with the internet. Okay, well, that works. I hang the pieces on a large frame so they dry, because they're all oils. It takes a long time for them to dry. And I like them to, when they're not stretched, it allows them to kind of dry on their own. When I ship them, they're only rolled up for a couple of weeks. And that's okay. You're really not supposed to store paintings rolled up for an extended period of time, because you can get a lot of damage. I saw a video thing on Clifford Still, and Clifford Still, 95% of his work from his entire career was in his storage when he passed away, and that was all given to Denver, the city of Denver, to create a museum for him. But a lot of the work had been rolled up for many, many years, and he had even used masking tape after he rolled it, and so they had to conserve a lot of the work to fix things like that. And that was when I learned, mostly that you can't leave it stored forever. There's so many things that can happen like that.
I know. Yeah, I know that one as well. With
yeah, that's true. So Catalina, the other question I have for you that's come in from Anonymous is talk to us about the skulls. Was skulls a very important part of his practice?
Hang on a sec. Let me just come back again. I think, so he studied as a fine artist. And part of the study, if you study fine arts, is what you used to is obviously doing still lifes and learning to draw the skull. So most artists, we have a fake skull that we took back from the studio in Spain after he passed away, and they kind of freaked out during X-ray because they thought it was my dad's head. Little story for you. But yeah, so maybe there is a little fixation with skulls here. The skull signifies death, but it also signifies rebirth. So in the painting Kali's Tunnel, you're going through the tunnel of light, which was a reoccurring theme with much of his work. Excuse me. There's an apocalypse. I use the skulls a lot for my reprints because skulls are cool. Skulls are rock and roll. Skulls are cool. I just kind of like skulls. But, and skulls, really popular. As Todd was saying, it's kind of with Alexander McQueen and an artist doing the skulls all the time. So, yeah, that's the story behind the skull.
Yeah, they created McQueen and so many of those guys. Who is the artist, the designer? No, the interior designer that did the Delano in Miami. I can't think of what his name is.
Oh,
big designer. He used skulls a lot as well. Yes, Philippe Stark. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. So, it's a big thing, and so yeah, it's interesting. I'll just show, actually, this is quite an interesting painting. I'll just flip it around. This is an early one. This is from 1971. And this is when he just discovered, this is on wood, actually. And I bought this over from New Zealand. I visited family friends and we bought this over. And his signature changed all the time as well. So yeah, as you said, he's been in over 56. He had 56 solo shows. I think about 20 group shows in his lifetime. Museums. He's in the Reina Sofia Museum permanent collection. And so, as we were saying, Todd, you know, it's like there's this huge body of work. And I think that's why people are looking to artists that may have been overlooked at a certain period of time, and it's kind of becoming the way to invest in art, because we were mentioning a lot of these artists are just, you know, blowing up too quickly. There is this huge body of work. Going back to storage, I have 500 pieces in storage in London, and it's really hard and it's expensive. But you can just see here, this is when he was discovering, I guess this is a bit more surreal. He kind of went through stages of surrealism and before moving into, he decided into realism or something. And kind of see these columns floating around. But again, you've got the dimension. And then this piece is, again, really surreal. It's quite Dali.
You were telling me that with one of these pieces, you created an exhibition and you used a lot of music as part of the exhibition, right?
Yes. Actually, the blue painting, the large blue painting was an exhibition we did in Madrid in 2015. And it was a kind of a reintroduction of Guirado back to Spain, because he hadn't shown there in Madrid for like 20 years. So, yeah, and we put 40 pieces in. And my husband's a musician, so I asked him I gave him the themes of the painting, which was Gaia with environmentalism, because he did a lot of work with environmental works. And he had to compose music for each theme. So I wanted it, as you walked around the foundation building, which is 2 floors huge, you kind of transitioned into each room into the theme of the art that was there. So that, you know, some moments are very Spanish, some moments are very dramatic, some moments sound like Pink Floyd. And he also, I love creating art events because I love taking the details. So we always have an olive tree. Like, actually, you can see I've got a little olive in the, can you see that? A little olive tree.
Yep.
We always have an olive tree because the region of Jaén is about olives. But yeah, so the music was totally composed for the show, and Matt used my father's guitar, flamenco guitar, on the tracks itself. So there's always some sort of detail involved that's very personal to the artist, to reflecting the mood and to reflecting, creating an immersion that you can really experience the art in. And I know you did the same for your Venice Biennale, didn't you? You told me the story about composing on the train. I mean, that's amazing.
The composer and I are college friends, and he's a brilliant, brilliant composer. He teaches now at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. Mm-hmm. And when the first program that we were doing together was in Naples in 2000. The first big music art program was in Naples in 2015. And we were on the train going from Zurich to Venice. And we literally sat in the dining car and took the paper placemats. And Greg started writing out notes and some of the music itself. And then he would call in the conductor guys and have them hum parts of it. So we had all of the train conductor guys in our car with us, humming parts of the music, and Greg was taking notes and writing it down. I even think we still have it. And he talks about that story a lot. But we do the same thing. We try and make the music sound like what you see in the art, because especially for like my work, the abstract color fields, it's all about emotion and what I'm putting on the canvas. So, and with music, people are more accepting of whatever they hear. There's an exception. They accept it without questioning it so much. They don't go, well, why is this so simple? Or why is it this? With art, they'll go, well, I don't understand it. So this gives another layer and helps bring across the whole thought behind a painting or an exhibition in this case.
So, yeah. Todd and Kat, a question has just come in, and I'll pose it to both of you. The viewer wants to know, how often do you reinstall art in your home or do a rehang?
Monthly. It's just constant. I'm always bringing a piece. Well, I'll show you. This is literally how in my house. Here's my storage thing. I mean, my studio is not very far from here, but I keep all the other ones behind the big ones. So there's 6 paintings behind the 2 large ones in the living room.
Oh, right. That's brilliant. I think I do it every season, darling. Every season it changes.
I'm constantly wanting things. I go through periods and I want a different color in the living room and I move them around, exactly. or I come up with a piece that I really love and I want to live with it. So like this blue one was the last piece that I brought in here, and I love the color. It's a French ultramarine, and it's very. It has many layers in it. So I love living with this piece.
Yeah, I do. And you know what I do actually is I move them around to see where they look best. Like this piece here, let me flip it. I'm trying out here right now. And I kind of quite like it because what I didn't see, this is the design look, my cushion has the same colors.
It matches.
The painting. And in magic hour, when the sunlight comes through here, it's really beautiful. It catches all the tones. This is one of 6 on board actually in 2000. No, this is 1999. I can see it.
Wow, that one would print such beautiful silk fabric. Have you thought about that?
I know, right? I know. Which
amazing.
That's kind of, well, as you know, not everybody else knows, that's my thing is textile design, and I studied textile design and fine art. So one of my passions is choosing paintings and taking art and turning it into fabrics, and I reimagine it as a textile or as a mural wallpaper, or how we can make it as an installation, as a light wall. Your pieces would look really good. I was actually thinking one of yours would work really well.
Well, let's do that. I'd like to try
that. We should, because I know that was always my kind of dream, was to represent certain artists and have an agency that works with art in variable ways, you know, rather than just printing it on things, because there's lots of these like websites now that you can just, you know, get your mug printed. But I'm talking about beautiful luxury stuff. Like the scarf collection I did was printed in Milan, and they're hand rolled, and you know, they're really proper quality. Little old ladies sewed those hems, you know.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so important too, because as you spread the thought behind the art, it makes more and more people understand it and appreciate it as well.
Totally, because they might not be into, you know, the thing is trying to connect with people on the level that they understand, right? So
exactly,
you know, they might not know anything about art. They might think it's this hierarchy that is just only, you know, intellectuals and posh people go to. But what I love about Spain actually, and having shown so much there, is I've noticed a difference. Like, you know, I find like in London, maybe New York and here, there's a kind of hierarchy on it.
Right.
In Spain, you will get the people that are even cleaning the museum afterwards. For everybody is passionate about art. Everybody, no matter what class or what job they do, everybody comes together because they're really proud of their heritage and that they're really interested in art and culture. So you get such a mixture of people. But I do find that over here, and as I say in the UK, it's harder to break through that, you know.
Yeah, for me, one of the things that I love is working with students, and what we're trying to do. Greg and I are in talks now with Cal State LA, and also with the University of North Carolina system for Wake Forest, about taking the idea behind the Venice Biennale and bringing it to Cal State. And then what we want to do is, this would involve the music department and the art department, and then we would have the students be the docents, the students would be the musicians. We would do an ongoing series of concerts in the concert hall. And then the art would stay in the I think it's called Silverman Gallery. So it would be this whole way of creating lectures and content and involving the community and involving the students, because, you know, like in Venice, we had this wonderful group of students from the School of the Arts in North Carolina that performed and recorded the music for us. And they were amazing. And the young violinist her name is Marta, and Marta, I have videos on my Facebook and also on my website. Marta is a brilliant violinist. She lives in Serbia. So when the Venice Biennale opened, she got on a bus and took a bus from Serbia to Venice in order to spend a week with us. And then she would just perform in the exhibition space. It was amazing.
Amazing.
That's so wonderful to hear. Another question's come in from Catherine. She's asking for both of you. She loves the landscape behind you, Catalina, and she loves the abstract behind you, Todd. Can you talk more about those two works?
Yeah. Okay. Shall I flip around? Boom, boom, boom. Okay. I love this. This is an Andolithian Spanish landscape, and my dad did a lot of these, but I'm really into this one because Andalusia is the south of Spain, and it's very similar agriculturally to California. So if you go to Palm Springs or Malibu, it's basically like you're in the south of Spain. Now this piece, I love the texture in it because you kind of feel that you're in the mountains, but you can also go down here, you see the texture. This piece was part of a show, an exhibition that we did in 2017 at Coral Gables Museum called Beyond the Landscape. And Guirado was the guest international artist there for 3 months, launching Miami Art Week and Art Basel, blah, blah, blah. And this was one of the pieces. So yeah, I love it because it just reminds me of Spain, and it's very impressionistic.
I agree with you on that. But knowing the work as well as I do, Catalina, the thing that gets me is the way the sun is presented in the painting, because it's very much goes into another reference point, as we said earlier, the skulls. Your father loved tunnels as well too.
Yeah, there's always a tunnel somewhere. There's always eyes or tunnels. I think this is, and it's just obviously a desert at sunset, so it's like the shadows. But this could be Palm Springs. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of works really well. So Todd, what's about yours?
Well, this is a newer piece. I'll show you. I did this. This is called Current Mood. It's a 48 inch by 48 inch. It has. I used. The blue-gray color for the background is actually something that I did like an Ad Reinhardt type thing where I took the oil paint and I mixed it down with an enormous amount of turpentine in order to remove the medium. So it's almost just pure pigment. So it gives it this wonderful matte finish, and you can see there's a lot of movement and shadow because of that, but there's also no shine. So that was on this particular, and then there are also these things within it, which they kind of have their own light source and float within the piece. And I get asked about these a lot. These are actually my idea of discussing life. These are it's a sword. It's the idea of you present your life by putting your sword in the sand. This is who I am. This is how I've lived. This is who I want to be. So I use this imagery quite a bit. I have some people that refer to it and say they're crosses, and they're not crosses. If they want to see that, that's fine. But it's a sword. And then I usually, in this case, I didn't. In this case, I was just painting the idea of life moving, and everything's so crazy now. This was a way to kind of, and I call it current mood. So this one is really kind of based on me, more of a self-portrait type thing of how I was feeling at the time with this muted color and no shine. So there's all kinds of weird imagery in my works as well. Like even in the corner here, where these types of movements, they've always been in my work, going back all to when I first started in the early 90s.
Yeah. Oops. I love that one. It's I always think that they're lightsabers.
Lightsaber. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's like a bit Darth Maul with a lightsaber.
Yeah, it's interesting in abstract art what people will see. People are always seeing faces in my work, or horses, or landscapes, or whatever. Yeah. And I think it's very. I don't ever discourage that. I think it's very important. And it's like Rothko said, his works were all about projecting an emotion. And all he wanted in his work, even though it was basically just a few colors, I mean, there were actually multiple colors, but you saw 3 colors. And his idea was to create an emotion in the viewer, where the viewer would be moved to tears or joy or whatever. You know, they'd think about things they hadn't thought about before. And I think he is probably one of the most brilliant artists that has lived in the past 100 years. I mean, he's someone that I have he's one of the biggest influences on who I am as an artist and what I want to achieve with the work. Because, you know, the work changes constantly, how I work. I'm constantly experimenting with new things. And, you know, they rarely leave my studio. I'll show you another little crazy piece.
Yeah.
So I love John Chamberlain, right? So I created this piece after seeing this amazing exhibition by John Chamberlain. But I didn't want it to just look like a John Chamberlain. So I ended up taking it and creating, it's a light board. So it has this wonderful light that runs on the back. Yeah. So the piece itself is actually about, when it's on, it creates this wonderful red triangle on the piece. And then the red light goes out in the entire room. But this is not something I would ever show. It's just something that I wanted to do and experiment with. And I do things like this all the time.
I do that as well, actually, which I can't go into the back room because it's a mess. Like, I'm embarrassed. But another time in private, I'll show you mine. I'll get mine out for you, Todd. I know you want
that. Oh, you're so funny.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Robert, we should probably talk a little bit about the auction and the reasons you put this auction together and why and where the money is going, because I think this is a great cause and you did this very quickly and you've gotten a lot of good press on this.
Yes, thank you for that, Todd. This is a cause that I feel very strongly about, as I know all the artists that are a part of feel the same way as well. So I was working with a British curator, Lee Sharrock, who had organized an exhibition before COVID, and was due to open right after the COVID outbreak in the UK started. And so that was shelved. And then we basically spoke to each other and we put this thing together in relatively, 2 weeks. And the nice thing, though, for us was every artist we approached was so enthusiastic and very supportive of the entire project and the cause behind this. And so it really was, saying it was nice to hear is just an understatement. It was just very, very an incredible outpouring of love towards it. So the charities that we're giving the proceeds to, and we've committed to giving at least 75%. And the reason for that is some artists have been hurt by COVID, so they've requested to keep 25% for themselves. So,
right.
So we're basically committed to giving all of the sales, less what the artist wants to keep, to 3 charities. And the 3 charities are the Underground Museum here in Los Angeles, focused on underrepresented artists.
They do great work. That is such a great space.
Oh, it is. It's a fantastic space. They've done some wonderful programming, and being in a city like LA, where we have major museums, it's not easy for the smaller ones, institutions and nonprofits, to attract the donors. So this is something that I felt very strongly about, as well as working with Hank Willis Thomas's nonprofit called For Freedoms, based out of New York, and then out of the UK is the Stephen Lawrence Trust. That is a fantastic charity. So, luckily sales have been very good. This has been a very short exhibition, only 10 days. I might have an extension for a few more days, just because of trying to figure out. We're waiting on a few more purchases to close due to logistics, and trying to figure out if the freight companies can ship to those locations. So having said that, thank you so much to the 2 of you for being the first to agree to be part of it. And I really love this piece, Catalina, that you showed earlier in the sitting room. Now, of course, this is just a JPEG. You have the original. There.
I do.
Yeah, this is a wonderful piece, Catalina. I love the colors and the movement, and the shapes within this piece almost seem to dance and move, and then it seems like there's almost a face in the center of the piece looking out at you.
Yeah, that's the Zen figure that is another underlying feature that has always gone through Maestro Guirado's works, and I've taken that as one of my symbols for my textile experimental designs with it, and taken it into loads of different ways, from urban to pop, because I think, you know, it's all about being Zen, and the rainbow colors are like our chakras. We're all one. So this, like, you know, this is rainbow karma, and we are all one. It doesn't matter what color we are. It doesn't matter what sexuality we prefer. We are all one. We are humans, and underneath our skin, we're all basically flesh. So, you know, there you go. So there's more message to this rather than just pretty colors. It's a prism, not a prism. Yeah.
Yes.
But there's a lot of emotional content in this particular piece as well. There's so much movement, and the light play is amazing in this piece.
Yes, it is.
It's really nice on silver paper and aluminium, as I've said. And then I've got two prints, limited edition prints by Maestro Guirado as well. Metropolis, which is New York, and it's kind of like the angel over the metropolis. And he did this as part of a New York series around 9/11, actually. But I thought it really captured the intensity that's going on in New York at the moment. And it's a really powerful piece. And the other one is the Rebellion work, which I put in because actually it's a bit of an homage to you, Todd, because I don't know if we have a slide of the Rebellion.
No, I don't have it, unfortunately.
Okay, well, everyone needs to go to your website and go to the Gaussian Advisory LLC on ArtNet, and they'll see it, because it actually has I put it in because I knew Todd was being part of it, and it's kind of got a cross in it, a sword in it as well. So I found this really nice theme between us we could fit in.
I love that.
I want to show a close-up. Thank you, Catalina, for that. I want to show a close-up of Todd's print that he showed us that was down by the books earlier. And, you know, as you said, Todd, this was done by a master printer who's worked with Kandinsky and other fantastic
my favorite artist.
I know.
It's beautiful work. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes.
Well, I did this a few years ago. The printer is in Stuttgart. He works by himself. He doesn't have an assistant. He was 84 at the time. And everyone had warned me going in, okay, he is crotchety and difficult. And so I thought, I'll just go in and kind of do my thing and let him do his. I didn't experience that at all. I thought he was the most amazing person to work with. I just loved working with him. He has this brilliance about what he does, and he mixes all of these amazing colors in this print by hand, and they're not measured. He has done it for so long and is so good at it. He just literally pours a little bit here and a little bit there and comes up with these perfect colors every single time. And then not long after this, the city of Stuttgart, he lives in Echterdingen, which is just outside Stuttgart. They honored him, and they did a big city show of his works, and it was called 66 Works, 66 Artists, 66 Years. And I happen to be the number 66 artist that he invited to be a part of this. So this work and the red piece that I showed you earlier were part of that exhibition, which has now traveled. It was also part of Art Karlsruhe last year, in a special exhibition that they did for Hans. He's just brilliant. I mean, he literally has worked with every major European artist, Lichtenstein, Max Ernst, all these people. So I can't say enough. He sends me little letters every now and then, just says, you know, he speaks no English, but I get it in German, so I have to call friends and say, what does this mean? And he tells me he's doing exhibitions, or he's just a good guy.
That's funny.
I love that. It's beautiful. And you're honored to be part of this collection and these artists that he's worked with. That's incredible.
Amazing. Yes. To be honest, it was very interesting because when we were printing the piece, they run all of these prints, right? And you run 15 or 20 experimenting with the colors, and all of those just kind of go into the bins, and they're never used or seen. And then the printer will print over them to test colors and stuff. So as we're printing my stuff and experimenting with this green color, out comes Kandinsky prints. Because he had done a second run, and he was using them to print my pieces on top of these Kandinsky prints. I have a great video of this. So yeah, it's things
wonderful.
like that.
Wow,
amazing, right? I felt like a kid in a candy store working with this guy, and I had never done prints before, so it was really just amazing.
Wow,
well, that's fantastic.
Maybe I'll have to post a photo of that on my website.
Yeah,
I mean, on my
if you
Facebook.
should, Todd.
Yeah,
and let's also do another webinar about that as well too. I'd love to hear more about the stories behind the making of a print. I think folks would find that fascinating to hear.
Totally.
I had some. This goes into everything with art as well, because when I had never done a print, so I called a friend of mine, Harold Huddes, who used to own a print company here in LA, and he did a lot of stuff for Gemini. So Harold called me one day and he said, "Listen, I want to help you out with this." And he had called Gemini Gel here in Los Angeles, and they had agreed to stop. They were printing who did the clouds?
Baldessari?
No, younger artist. I'll think of it in a moment. Anyway, they were printing this wonderful series that was going to LACMA at the time. They stopped in order for me to come in and watch them work on how they were doing this print to show me what they did. And I was, there's all these great things that happen with artists sometimes when you spread it out and you talk to people and you keep your people close. I think that's so important.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And the other piece you've given, Todd, is this gorgeous painting.
I love that.
Talk to us about this, because this just pops with color when you see it in person.
Well, this is these pieces. I love white paintings like this. This is basically a titanium white with a tiny bit of blue, and then the black is actually a sepia. It's a brown sepia, and I love the way those colors mix, because there's a calmness to me that it just comes. It comes from the interior of this piece. And there's a sister piece to this, because originally because this is a small piece. It's a 24 inch by 24 inch. So when I did it, I wanted if someone wanted, they could put two side by side.
Yeah.
And they're both very, very similar in this movement. And that the movement in the center for me is kind of like a musical frequency. I use that a lot as well. It's like the way a note shakes, like a guitar, the string shakes, and the way you hear it. So
it's
that's
like
some of that imagery.
It's like vibrational painting. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It's very zen.
Yes, that's a great way to end as well too. So thank you, Catalina and Todd.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. What a nice afternoon.
And two of your collections, you're very welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This webinar will be uploaded to our YouTube channel tomorrow. Additional information on this and our United for Change fundraising exhibition is available on our website at galstian.art, as well as our ArtNet pages. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Ciao.
Bye.